In a small fishing village in Batangas, where the sea greeted the sunrise every morning with waves that shimmered like melted gold, lived a boy named Ramil Dela Cruz. He was 17, tall for his age, but his frame carried the quiet weight of struggle. His father, a fisherman, had lost his boat to a typhoon 2 years ago, and since then, Ramil had been the family's main provider, fixing nets, carrying baskets, and singing for coins at the local pier. Ramil's voice was his only treasure. It wasn't polished by any teacher or microphone, it was shaped by the wind, the ocean, and the endless nights when he sang to keep his younger sister, Alona, from crying herself to sleep. His songs carried warmth and ache, the kind that only those who had seen both love and loss could create. He had grown up listening to his father's old radio, where songs of Freddie Aguilar, Ray Valera, and Asin played in static bursts between weather reports. But there was one song that lived in his heart, Anak by Freddie Aguilar. His father said it was the soul of the Philippines. "If you ever sing this, Ramil," his father would whisper, "sing it with your truth, not your voice." That truth came when life became too heavy. One night, their small home caught fire from a kerosene lamp. His mother didn't make it out. His father was left with burns that made fishing impossible. Ramil stopped singing for months. His voice, once bright as sunrise, went silent like the ashes that covered their walls. Then came the letter, the miracle wrapped in fear. His video, recorded secretly by a tourist who had heard him sing on the pier, had gone viral. Millions watched the barefoot boy with the weathered guitar sing Bayan Ko with tears streaming down his face. One day, his inbox flooded with messages, one from a talent scout in Los Angeles. "We want you to audition for America's Got Talent world stage," it said. At first, he thought it was a scam. But when the producer called live on video, showing a glimpse of Simon Cowell's production office, Ramil felt his knees weaken. His sister screamed, and his father, eyes red but shining, said in a trembling voice, "Anak, this is your time." The journey to America was Ramil's first time on a plane. Everything seemed unreal. The clouds, the lights, the food served in tiny trays. When he landed in Los Angeles, the air smelled like possibility and fear mixed together. He clutched his guitar, a cheap second-hand instrument with a crack across the body, but to him, it was more precious than gold. The day of his audition came faster than he wanted. Backstage, surrounded by singers with designer clothes and stylists, he felt like a shadow in their world. His shirt was simple, the same one he wore to the pier. His accent marked him as a foreigner, his nerves as a dreamer. A producer approached. "Ramil Dela Cruz from the Philippines, right? You're up next." He nodded, heart pounding so loudly it almost drowned the noise of the crowd. When he walked onto the stage, the lights nearly blinded him. The crowd was a blur of faces, but four were clear: Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Howie Mandel, and Heidi Klum. "Hello," Simon began, leaning forward. "What's your name?" "My name is Ramil Dela Cruz, from the Philippines." His accent made the crowd cheer. Simon smiled faintly. "You came all the way here to sing?" "Yes, sir. To sing, and to tell my story." Simon nodded. "And what will you be singing for us today?" Ramil took a deep breath. "A song from my heart. A song from my country." He sat on the stool, adjusted the mic, and strummed his first chord. The theater fell silent. The notes of Anak floated through the air, raw, trembling, honest. His voice wasn't perfect, but it was alive. Each lyric carried the pain of loss and the weight of hope. When he reached the chorus, people in the audience began to cry. The camera zoomed in on Simon, who leaned back, arms crossed, eyes glistening. By the final verse, there wasn't a sound in the room except Ramil's voice, fragile yet unbreakable. As the last chord faded, the crowd erupted in applause, rising to their feet. Simon didn't move at first. He just looked at the boy on stage, his lips pressed tight, his jaw trembling slightly. Then he stood up. "That," he began slowly, voice thick with emotion, "was one of the most powerful performances I've ever witnessed in my life." Ramil blinked, unable to speak. Simon continued, "You know, Freddie Aguilar's Anak is sacred to many Filipinos. And tonight, you made it even more sacred. You didn't just sing the song, you lived it. You, young man, are a new legend of the Philippines." The crowd roared. Then came the words that made history. "I'll say something I never thought I'd say," Simon added. "You are better than Freddie Aguilar." The audience gasped. The other judges looked shocked, but smiling. "Better," Simon repeated, "not because you outperformed him, but because you carried his spirit to a new generation. You gave his legacy a heartbeat again. Ramil's hands shook. His eyes filled with tears. He whispered, "Thank you, sir," and covered his face. Sophia wiped her eyes. "That was beautiful, Ramil. You have a gift that goes beyond music." Howie Mandel hit the golden buzzer. The confetti exploded, golden light raining down on the boy from Batangas who once sang for coins by the sea. He knelt on the stage, crying, clutching his guitar as the world cheered his name. After the show aired, Ramil became an overnight sensation. News outlets across the Philippines replayed his performance. Videos of his audition flooded social media, captioned with, "Proud to be Filipino." Freddie Aguilar himself posted, "I see my younger self in Ramil. He is the new voice of our people." But fame didn't change him. Ramil stayed humble. Every time he was interviewed, he mentioned his father and sister first. "They are my strength," he'd say. "I sing for them, for our home, and for every Filipino who dreams." During the semifinals, Ramil chose to sing an original song, something he wrote for his late mother titled Sa Ilalim ng Bituin, Under the Stars. It was about grief, forgiveness, and finding peace in loss. The song began softly, his guitar echoing the rhythm of waves. Then his voice broke through, emotional, soaring, full of light. The lyrics told the story of a child watching the stars, believing his mother lived among them. By the bridge, the theater was silent again. Even the judges didn't blink. When he finished, Simon was the first to clap. "You are not just a singer," Simon said. "You are a storyteller, and the world needs more of that." Ramil advanced to the finals. The finals night was electric. The stage shimmered like a dream. Ramil's family had been flown in by the producers. His father sat in the front row, hands shaking, eyes shining with tears. Ilona, now 11, waved a small Philippine flag. Ramil walked onto the stage, barefoot as always. "This one," he said softly into the mic, "is for every Filipino who has ever lost, but never stopped believing." He sang another original song, Bayan Ko, Buhay Ko, My Country, My Life. It blended traditional Filipino folk melodies with modern chords, telling a story of sacrifice, unity, and resilience. His voice carried the soul of the islands, the heartbeat of jeepney drivers, farmers, teachers, and dreamers. The audience waved small Philippine flags handed out before the show. Some people cried openly. The performance ended with Ramil whispering, "Mabuhay ang Pilipinas." The crowd rose. As one, Simon Cowell stood with his hand on his heart. That, he said into the mic, was not just the performance of the night, it was the performance of a lifetime. "You have united the world through your voice." When the votes came in, Ramil Dela Cruz was declared the winner of America's Got Talent, World Stage. The confetti fell again, and this time, the colors were red, white, blue, and yellow, the colors of the Philippine flag. Ramil knelt once more, overwhelmed, whispering prayers of gratitude. The cameras caught Simon approaching him, shaking his hand, and whispering something that only the microphones later revealed, "You reminded the world what music is for." Months after his victory, Ramil returned home to Batangas. The entire town waited at the pier, waving flags and banners that read, "Welcome home, our legend." His father hugged him tightly, and Ilona refused to let go of his hand. Ramil used his prize money not to buy luxury, but to rebuild what was lost. He repaired the boats destroyed in the typhoon. He built a music school named after his mother, the Liza Dela Cruz Music Academy, to teach children who couldn't afford lessons. "Talent has no price," he told the press. "Every voice deserves a chance." International media covered his homecoming. CNN called him, "the Filipino who gave the world its heart back." BBC described him as, "a new cultural bridge between East and West." But Ramil avoided the fame circus. Instead, he focused on writing songs in Tagalog, English, and Bisaya, songs that spoke of family, sacrifice, and hope. His first album, The New Legend, debuted at #1 on iTunes and Spotify across Asia. During one concert in Manila, a special guest appeared, Freddie Aguilar himself. The crowd erupted as the legendary artist walked onto the stage holding a guitar. Freddie smiled, "You remind me of who I was, and who I wanted to be." They performed Anak together. Their voices, one of the past, one of the future, blended in harmony that seemed to echo through generations. When the song ended, Freddie turned to Ramil and said, "The legend lives on, and his name is Ramil Dela Cruz." The stadium roared. Years later, When Ramil was invited back to AGT as a guest performer, Simon Cowell introduced him personally. "When I first met this young man," Simon said, "he had nothing but a guitar and a dream. Today, he's not just a legend of the Philippines, he's a legend of the world." Ramil walked onto the stage, humble as ever, barefoot, carrying the same guitar with the same crack. He performed a new song titled One Voice, written for children who dream despite poverty. By the final note, the crowd chanted his name. Simon stood again, eyes moist, smiling proudly. "You've done it again," he said. "You've made the world feel something real." Backstage, a young boy from Mindanao approached him, trembling with excitement. "Kuya Ramil," the boy said, "I want to sing like you one day." Ramil smiled, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and said, "Don't sing like me. Sing like you. That's how legends begin." In the years that followed, Ramil became a symbol of Filipino pride and perseverance. His songs were translated into dozens of languages. He performed at the United Nations, sang at global charity events, and continued to represent his roots with every lyric. But despite the fame, he often returned to the pier where it all began, sitting on the same spot where he once sang for coins, watching the sunset paint the sea. "Do you miss the stage?" his sister once asked. He smiled. "The sea was my first stage, Alona. The world just happened to listen later." She laughed, and together they sang under the open sky, the waves clapping in rhythm, the stars listening in silence. When Simon Cowell retired years later, one of his final interviews was about the most memorable performances of his career. The interviewer asked, "After all these decades, who would you say is the greatest singer you ever discovered?" Simon didn't hesitate. "A boy from the Philippines named Ramil Dela Cruz," he said softly. "He had nothing, no fame, no fancy clothes, not even shoes. But when he sang, the world stopped. He reminded me that music isn't about perfection. It's about truth. And he had more truth in one song than most artists have in a lifetime." He paused, smiling faintly. "People once compared him to Freddie Aguilar. I said he was better. I still believe that, not because he sang louder, but because he made us all listen." Ramil never stopped singing. Even as he grew older, his voice carried the same power, the same raw emotion that once melted the hearts of millions. His legacy became more than fame, it became faith, faith in dreams, in music, and in the unshakable spirit of the Filipino soul. And somewhere, in a small fishing village by the sea, the waves still sang his songs every morning, carrying them across the world, the songs of the new legend of the Philippines.